Hello, and welcome to episode 59, Enoughness. I am so excited about recording this podcast today. It is like the very end of summer, and this is my first time video podcasting. So, kind of funny for my regular audio listeners. You probably can't see, but you'll be seeing on social media, and I think we're going to make like a YouTube channel or whatever we do with video podcasts. It just seems like after a year of doing these, it seemed like the next right thing to try a little video in addition to the audio, which maybe is a great segue into today's topic of enoughness, because even deciding to sort of add video, I'm kind of like, is it too much? And I guess on the other hand, seeing other people and just feeling like there's always something else, evolving in social media and just there's always like the next thing that's happening. I was feeling like just my regular podcast maybe wasn't enough. And so here I am sort of like experimenting and like dabbling in this new arena. And it's just that question of enoughness. And I think it's just so poignant because so many brides that I've talked to say the same thing to me. They are in this situation with their wedding usually, and they're like, it simultaneously feels like way too much and yet completely not enough, right? Like that just feeling like on any given day, it can swing from like one end of the spectrum to the other. And I think that sort of something being at the very same time, way too much and completely not enough, that feeling is just so frustrating and discordant and disorienting. That I think is sort of the crux of what kind of gets a lot of that wedding, what's underneath a lot of the wedding drama and a lot of that like crazed bridezilla-y feelings. And it can be anything from your budget, right? It's so funny how your perspective around the wedding budget really changes over time. And as you sort of get into the planning, it's like at first you pick a number, whether you're having $100,000 wedding, a $40,000 wedding, it's like, oh, that's plenty. And then all of a sudden, it's so not enough, right? Like once you get going, no matter what your budget is, it can feel like completely not enough. And yet on a different day, when you look at the number, you're like, that is way too much money to spend on one day, right? So the budget thing swings that way. Your dress, right? You can be shopping and you could have even bought your dress and you're like, is it too much? And then you're like, am I not doing enough? Like, this is my moment. This is the dress. And so then and then you're like, but also I'm wearing this like giant ball gown and I've never worn a ball gown before. So it's clearly too much. But then is it enough? Right? Like you can see how your mind will do this, even with the planning process itself, right? I have couples who are like, we're not like doing enough. Like maybe we're not thinking of enough angles and putting enough of ourselves into it and caring enough about the details. And on a different day, it's like it's way too much. We're doing way too much with the planning. We are talking about it too much. We are caring about it too much. We are investing too much. It's just too much. And so I really feel like it's such, this idea of what is enough is very, very important in terms of being, when you're sort of vacillating between way too much and not enough around the same topic, it's such a great reminder that you're needing some grounding. And I love, not only in wedding planning, you can see how it, it's whether it's the flowers, it's the budget, it's the, oh, we need to do a welcome party and a brunch and we need to do more. Oh no, we shouldn't be doing all that. We need to be doing less. Not only with the wedding itself, but you'll notice you'll start to think this way about other people, right? So you'll be like, my bridesmaids are not doing enough. They're not, throwing an exotic bachelorette party, or they aren't texting me to ask me how I feel about my centerpiece selections and check on me after my first fitting, like they're not doing enough, I'm not getting enough support. And then you can like pull back and look and be like, these people are giving up weekends and time and money and prioritizing me and taking flights and doing all of this stuff to like show up for me. It's so too much and I feel weird. It's like they're doing too much, right? The same person can have both of those feelings. And so I think it's just another reminder. So it can be about yourself, it can be about your wedding, it can be about the people, right, in your life, your friends, your family. They're doing too much, right? They're asking too many questions. Like if you've got like a mom or a mother-in-law or an auntie or whoever, it's just like they're just too much. They're just way too involved. And then other people I talk to are like, no one in my family even cares that I'm getting married, and everybody's like just really low-key and uninterested by it. And so it can be either. And then I think it's so fascinating, just the way I'm having that sort of back and forth juggle with it in terms of like this podcast and my business and stuff. I think it's interesting to look at it in your other areas in your life, especially in your relationship, right? I know a lot of sort of what comes up around this idea of cold feet. It's like, do we know each other enough? Like, did we date enough? Have we talked about it enough? Like, or is it too much? Like, have we been dating too long and like we should have gotten married 5 years ago and we procrastinated, and why didn't we do this? And it's been too, like, right? There's always two sides of it, and it can come at you from either angle in all areas of your life. So I really want you to think about this idea whenever you're struggling between something being not enough, but also too much. I want you to start to think about how you're caught up in sort of a mindset that is being driven by like a lot of external factors. And I think that's the thing. A lot of times we feel like everything's fine until we see something else or we hear someone else's opinion. And that's what starts to make us feel, oh my gosh, it's too much or it's not enough. That is usually what triggers us. So it's the social media, it's the going to other people's weddings and comparing yours, random conversations with coworkers, whatever it is, it's usually an external factor that sort of, same with me, like I'm seeing everybody else doing video podcasts and I'm like, ooh, should I be doing that too, right? Am I not doing enough? And so I think the practice here and the reminder here is this idea of sufficiency and how important it is to develop that sense of enoughness from within, right? You're deciding for yourself the best way that you can using your instincts and your judgment and your desires and what feels good to you to decide what's enough. And decide that and then carry that into the world so that you're not then being battered between the poles, right? The opposite extremes, and then you're ping-ponging in between. If you've decided what feels right, what feels good, what feels like enough, whether it's your dress, how long have you known your fiance, your budget, how much effort you put into planning, how much you put into the details, whatever feels good to you is enough. And I really think this idea of like, I decide enoughness, and not only that, like, it will be enough. It is enough. And just practicing these thoughts of like real sufficiency, like, and it goes really deep, right? Enoughness it's a huge refrain among women. It's always with women, right? There's this feeling of being too much or not enough, right? We feel like we're overwhelming people or we're not living up to expectations. That is like one of the big sort of female narratives that really just gets women spiraling and feeling insecure and losing their confidence and all of that kind of stuff. So this enoughness, I'm talking about it on this level, but it goes all the way down, right? It's a big, huge issue. And I just think it needs, especially for women, especially for brides, it's a beautiful time to really look at this concept of enoughness, because it's probably going to like come get you during your wedding planning. And so I think this is the time to pause and look at it and start to practice, like I was saying, this concept of self-sufficiency, that you have everything you need to have a wonderful wedding, right? So it's like, get it really back to basics. What do you really need? You need you, your fiance, an officiant, right? And then everything else is extra, right? It's a blessing. It's wonderful. Like once you really sort of start to get to the baseline of what really is enough in any area of your life, it's just recalibrating and resetting. Then you can start to see how everything else is just extra, and it's wonderful and it's beautiful, but it's not like the marker, right? It's not like you're chasing the right answer. The right answer is always super simple, and it's always from like within. You get to decide what is enough. And it's so important to just start leaning into looking at all the ways in which there's always been enough. You've always been enough. You'll always have enough, right? And when you start to generate like this feeling of enoughness instead of looking for it, it changes the whole game, right? So I don't want you to walk into your wedding with the question of like, oh my gosh, is it enough? Is it too much? Like, no, you're deciding it's perfectly enough. You're deciding ahead of time. And then you're just going to look at your wedding with that lens and see all the ways in which it's true, right? I think that is the key. You decide ahead of time that it's enough, that you're enough, that your fiance is enough, that your friends did enough, right? That everything was enough. And that is what I really want you to sort of take away from today, is just practicing this idea of enoughness, looking at all the ways in which your life has always provided you with just enough, right? And that is like such a profound thing to remind yourself of during this wedding planning and well beyond, because there will be so many other times that this comes up. And just like with me, it's like doing this podcast. It's like the only reason I'm doing it is because it's like, oh, this feels fun. This is intriguing. Like I feel invited to it. And no matter, like it's going to be enough. It's going to be right because I decided that. I'm not looking for someone else to be like, yes, no, I'm deciding it's enough. It's not too much. And it's not enough. It is because I've decided. So I hope that little diatribe on enoughness is helpful to you on your wedding planning journey. Just another sort of lens to look at things. And if you are wanting more help, I really, really invite you to book a call. I have been booking calls with such amazing brides lately. Some at the very beginning, right? I have a girl who just got engaged and she's like, whoa, I thought I might need you in like 6 months. I didn't realize I'd need you like 2 weeks into my engagement. And then another client who's booked a call just in her like first few weeks of newlywed life, just needing to like digest and figure out what the whole day meant and how to make sense of it and what's going on in like the early weeks of her marriage. And just, it's such a special thing to have this space, right, where you and I create this hour where you can really figure out what is going on in your head, right? You can really hear yourself and you can really get the guidance, the perspective, and the insight that you have, right? I am not the magic answer, but it's the container and like what we do together that is like so exciting and so wonderful. And I just want every single bride deserves this. So if you are interested, book a call, do not hesitate. Jump on over to my website, KarenWarning.com. And always, I'm on Instagram and I'm on TikTok, and find me and chat with me. I do Q&As and little videos and all that fun stuff. So until then, until next time, I am wishing you nothing but bridal bliss.